Those of you who are repeat customers, we appreciate you coming to the third in our series, our Heart and Vascular series, in conjunction with UMass Memorial Medical Center. And, I think it's been a great series. We'll do another series in the spring, probably not on the heart. We're working on topics now. Feet are in there, podiatry, some other good ideas. So again, on your evaluations, if you come up with any great ideas, we're always very interested. And we'll make sure that you hear about it so you can join.
Hello everyone. Hello. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad you were able to make it despite the weather condition and some of the power outage we've had. We're going to be talking about heart disease in women. We'll review some of the symptoms, how it presents itself. We'll talk about the differences in treatment and outcome for women versus men. And towards the end, we'll talk about the treatments. Heart disease is a leading cause of death in women. More women die from heart disease than all cancers combined. And 1 in 3 women is affected, and 1 woman dies every minute from heart disease. 64% of women die suddenly with no symptoms. Heart disease is largely preventable, and this is the crux of the talk here. What is heart disease? And at this point, I'll invite Dr. Cynthia Ennis from cardiology to go more into detail.
So what is heart disease? So how does your heart work? I'll just review that to start. Your heart pumps. Each beat pumps blood that delivers life.
Risk factors tend to gang up. Your risk for heart disease rises with the number of risk factors you have or their severity. Having just 1 risk factor doubles your risk for heart disease. Having 2 risk factors increases your risk for heart disease 4-fold. And having 3 or more increases to 10-fold. So risk factors tend to gang up. What you can do to reduce your risk of heart disease? Lower your blood pressure. Hypertension, commonly called as blood pressure, it causes coronary artery disease, stroke, kidney problems, and other health problems. It's very common, and usually does not cause symptoms. So you may be having a high blood pressure for a longer period of time than you know, and may have already done some damage to your body. Some people do get palpitations or headache with high blood pressure. The numbers. Systolic blood pressure should be less than 140 or ideally less than 130. This represents the pressure in your arteries when heart is pumping blood into them. Diastolic blood pressure, or the lower number, it should be less than 90, ideally less than 85, and it represents the pressure in your arteries when the heart is resting. Now these are pretty general numbers. They're much more stricter when you have risks. So discuss with your doctor about your ideal goal blood pressure number, the individual plan as we call it. Have your blood pressure checked yearly. What are different ways that we can lower our blood pressure? Lower intake of salt. The common culprits are canned foods, cold cuts, soup, snack foods, frozen meal. Other ways to lower blood pressure would be exercise, lose weight, cut down on caffeine, reduce your stress doing exercises, meditation, or yoga, high fiber diet, fruits and vegetables, and then talk to your doctor about medications. Tobacco use or smoking. And this is one of the most powerful risk factors that women can control. Female smokers have a risk of sudden cardiac death Cigarette increases blood pressure, blood clotting, it decreases the good cholesterol, and directly damages blood vessels. It exposes your body to carbon monoxide, which is a chemical that robs your blood of the oxygen and promotes the plaque formation. Women may be more sensitive than men to some of the harmful effects of smoking, and this is why it's most powerful risk factor that women can control. The incidence of heart attack is increased 6-fold in women and only 3-fold in men who smoke at least 20 cigarettes per day compared to the subjects who never smoked. If you smoke and use oral contraceptives, your risk for heart attack is significantly increased. And secondhand smoke also increases the cardiac risk. On the other hand, the health benefits of quitting smoking begin immediately. Many people who quit smoking successfully have tried and failed many times in the past. And this is the point I want to really highlight, because people say, I tried to quit 2 times, I've failed, and that's not I cannot quit any longer, I've tried and failed. But this is the point I want to highlight, because you could still be successful the 3rd time. These are some of the websites about quitting. Talk to your doctor about nicotine replacement and other options. Know your sugar. Diabetes. It's a disorder in which the blood sugar levels is too high, and there are 2 types of diabetes. Diabetes type 1, where there's too little insulin, and diabetes type 2, where the body does not respond to insulin correctly. Both types of diabetes are at greatly increased risk of developing a heart disease. Type 2 diabetes is more common and runs in the family. So if you have a family history of diabetes, you are at risk, and especially if you're overweight. Ask your doctor to screen you for diabetes, and if you have a family history, you should be screened every year with a blood test called fasting blood glucose. If the results are borderline or abnormal, talk to your doctor about getting medications or incorporating certain lifestyle changes that could decrease your chances of developing diabetes. Diabetes raises the risk of CHD more in women than in men. And having diabetes doubles a woman's risk of developing CHD. So this is another risk factor that affects women more than men. Control your cholesterol. Cholesterol is a type of fat, and it's necessary for normal body functioning. There are 3 major types of cholesterol: LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. LDL is commonly called as bad cholesterol. It collects the cholesterol and takes it to the tissues and arteries. HDL is a good cholesterol, and it takes the cholesterol away from arteries. Triglyceride can cause blood clots and worsen atherosclerosis. The numbers. Total cholesterol, more than 200 is too high. HDL, or good cholesterol, less than 50 is too low for women. LDL cholesterol, or the bad cholesterol, more than 130 is too high. Lower, the better. And triglyceride, more than 150 is too high. And again, these are pretty general numbers. They're much more stricter if you have other risk factors, say diabetes or other risks. Like high blood pressure, high cholesterol does not cause symptoms. So you may be having a higher cholesterol for a longer period of time than you actually know it is, and the body already had some damage from them. Ask your doctor to screen for your high cholesterol. It consists of a total cholesterol level, and if that's abnormal, a fasting lipid panel or special type of blood test is then ordered. How can you improve your cholesterol? Decreasing saturated fat and cholesterol in your diet, increasing dietary fiber, exercise, losing weight, and improving the control of diabetes. This helps to lower triglycerides. Choose a healthy diet and expend more energy. In this slide, I'm going to talk about more on weight and physical activity. Nurses' Health Study, and this was a study that came up in the news a lot, that highlighted the effects of being overweight and the physical activity. They took 88,000 women. It was a large study, between the ages of 34 to 59 and followed them for 20 years. What they found was being overweight and inactive increased the risk of heart attack. So if you had a healthy weight and inactive, your risk for heart disease increases by 1.5 times. If you are overweight and active, it increases by 2.5 times. And if you are overweight and inactive, then it increases by 3.5 times. They even show that gaining 10 to 20 pounds during adulthood was associated with 27% increase in the risk of heart attack. Obesity numbers. Some women tend to accumulate their fat more around the waistline, called apple figures. And apple-shaped figures carry greater heart disease risk compared to the pear-shaped figure. The pear-shaped figures are the ones that accumulate fat more around their thighs and hips. A BMI, meaning body mass index, meaning your ideal weight for your height, for your gender, if that's greater than 24.9, that carries an increased risk for heart disease. The waistline greater than 35 inches carries increased risk for heart disease. Another term that we read often about is waist to hip ratio, and it is the waist measurement divided by your hip measurement. And if that's greater than 0.9, that carries an increased risk for heart disease. Metabolic syndrome. We've been getting a lot of research on this, a lot of talks about it here in the news, this term a lot. This is a group of risk factors that increase your risk for heart disease and other problems as well, such as stroke and diabetes. What is metabolic syndrome? Any three of the following risks constitutes to having a metabolic syndrome. So say if you have a large waistline, higher than normal blood pressure, or higher than normal fasting blood sugar. So say if you have a high blood pressure, diabetes, and a large waistline, you have a metabolic syndrome. This is one of my favorite slides. It talks about the new food pyramid that we have and emphasizes on the exercise level as well. It talks about how our food pattern or daily diet should have a larger portion of grains, vegetables, and lower portions of oil and meat. Also, the adult should be physically active for at least 30 minutes most days of the week and 60 to 90 minutes of daily physical activity to prevent weight gain. Same thing, more in detail in the next slides about incorporating grains, vegetables, and fruits more in the diet. What about hormone replacement therapy? Some of the initial studies that women took hormone replacement therapy after menopause protected from heart disease. So we were prescribed a lot of hormone replacement